my wife's insane behavior, and how it changed us. My wife and I had been together for 10 years and married for 8. We met in college, each of us experiencing our first serious relationship with the other. I genuinely believed our relationship was unique and beautiful, built on a foundation of love and mutual respect. However, as time went on, I began to realize that my perception might have been more idealistic than factual. Some time ago, my wife started working at a new company. At first, she found it difficult to fit in because she's always been reserved. Encouraged by me, she gradually made friends with a group of women, some single, some divorced, and others dating but not married. Initially, I was happy she was building a social circle outside our marriage, believing it would enrich her life and our relationship. But then her behavior started to change. She began going out for drinks, attending parties, and engaging in activities her friends had planned. I became increasingly concerned about her frequent outings and the impact they were having on our relationship, especially in the bedroom. My wife was never one to initiate intimacy, but her continued socializing left her either too tired or simply not in the mood. The intimacy we once shared dwindled, replaced by a growing emotional distance that I couldn't bridge. At some point, her company hired a new manager who quickly became the center of her attention. She began mentioning him in passing, praising how he handled certain problems that didn't seem work-related. His charisma and confidence were undeniable, and she admired his ability to navigate complex situations with ease. When I questioned her fascination with this man, she brushed off my concerns. She even started asking if I regretted not having more experience with women, to which I replied, "No, because you are all I ever needed." I thought I saw a flash of sadness in her eyes, but she quickly changed the subject, leaving me puzzled and uneasy. Unexpectedly, she brought up the idea of an open marriage to spice things up. I was taken aback because my wife had never been particularly liberal sexually. Initially, I refused and wondered if her suggestion was influenced by the new manager. She denied any connection but admitted she felt like she was missing out. Reluctantly and naively, I agreed. We set some rules, primarily not sleeping with anyone at home, and decided to give it a year. During this period, my wife went on dates and had one-night stands, while I went on a few dates but never engaged in casual encounters because it felt wrong to me. My wife would ask if I was okay, but she wouldn't change her behavior. Gradually, the love I had for her, the pure, special innocence of our marriage, began to fade, killing me inside. To cope, I started dating an amazing woman who had migrated from South Korea. Our conversations were effortless. She had a wit that was as sharp as lightning and a smile that could make anyone forget themselves. This connection led to more dates until we became intimate. I had never experienced such fulfilling intimacy before. She made me feel so desirable and alive. At first, my wife thought it was cute, but as months passed, she began questioning my relationship with my lover. I pointed out that opening our marriage was her idea and expressed concern about her relationship with the manager. She remained silent, looking like she wanted to say something but holding her tongue. She started coming home early to surprise me with dinner, kept the house extra clean, visited my workplace to drop off lunch, and began initiating intimacy in the bedroom. Honestly, if it weren't for her opening up our marriage, which I also blame myself for agreeing to, all this would have had me jumping for joy. I barely engaged in her attempts at intimacy, doing it merely to get it over with. Something inside me towards my wife died, and I could see she felt it too. I asked her what brought on this change. What was different? Her response was that she wanted to show me that she loves me and is happy with me. I burst out laughing, unable to believe her sincerity, and brought up her group of friends, the manager, and her one-night stands. She didn't respond that day and simply went to bed in tears. The next day, I came home to find her waiting for me. She told me she wanted to close the open marriage, that the whole experience was a horrible mistake, that she regretted everything, and that she wanted us to be the focus of our relationship again. I told her to be honest and ask what inspired all of this. Wouldn't you know it? It was her group of friends who planted the idea because of their numerous sexual exploits. And when the manager came around, he surprisingly supported that lifestyle and encouraged my wife to live free. Apparently, it developed into an emotional affair, but only became physical once the marriage was open. She described it as being drunk behind the wheel of a speeding car, thrilling and intoxicating. But the price of this decision had become too much for her to bear. She now sees that she never needed to compare, that what we had was truly unique and special. But now she feels like she murdered our marriage and any chance of a life together. I told her I might never be able to see her as my wife again, and this made her break down in front of me. I simply held her in silence as she cried herself to sleep in my arms on the couch. She has since left her job, cut off contact with all her friends and the manager, and even told me she's willing to spend the rest of her life making it up to me and working tirelessly to be seen as a wife by me. But I haven't cut contact with my lover. My lover, quite frankly, makes me feel like a man, like I can challenge the world, and my wife hasn't in a while. Truth is, I don't know what to do in this situation. I would love to get the special feeling back if possible, but my lover basically saved me when I was at my lowest. Please help me. We have our first marriage counseling session in a couple of hours. Not sure how that will go. Forgot to mention, this morning as I got out of the shower, I saw my wife holding my phone and silently shaking as she read a message I had received. I just took it from her and didn't say anything. The message was from my lover. Good morning, handsome. I slept in your t-shirt last night because I miss going to bed and waking up in your arms. I miss greeting the new day with a kiss from you. I think this messed up my wife quite a bit because she has basically been shadowing me for the past 2 hours. Even when I went for a jog, she never once jogged with me. Not a single time during our entire relationship. I met my lover on an evening when my wife was on one of her dates. I was coming out of a bookstore where I spent most of my evenings when this whole fiasco started. She, my lover, was being followed by a short, beefy man yelling at her. When I saw him grab her arm and violently turn her around, I unconsciously stepped in. I practice judo, but it's nothing spectacular. With that, I was able to restrain him and accidentally dislocate his wrist. It turns out she got him fired for sexual harassment, and he didn't take it too well. Afterward, she insisted on buying me coffee as a thank you, to which I agreed. As for her reaction to the open marriage, it was initially one of hesitation. She was adamant about not being a homewrecker, but after learning the full scope of my wife's actions from me, she basically threw caution to the wind. The therapist's perspective. The therapist seemed nice and experienced. She appeared unbiased and actually eager to help. Even though it was our very first session, my wife took it as an opportunity to lay it all out, it seemed. She confessed that this group of friends made her wonder if she had missed her chance because she was committed to her first boyfriend and had no other experiences. She never had the same adventures some of these supposedly amazing women had, some of whom are divorced, but none are married. The therapist pointed out that this can be and often is detrimental to a marriage due to the difference in mindset. My wife seemed to agree and added that after the new manager started approaching her, some of these friends encouraged her to see where it goes, saying it was a chance for her to explore or discover herself. She obviously felt guilty, so she says, so she never did anything physical until one of the divorced ones suggested an open marriage as a loophole and told her that some couples come out stronger because of it. So after regrettably, again, so she says, convincing me to open up the marriage, her so-called adventure began. It was intoxicating and blinding, but lacked real substance, not like the kind we built over the years, and she started to question her reasons for doing this. She said she could see the hurt in my eyes, but told herself this was an adventure. She said she'll never forgive herself for this. A chance to have an amazing experience. The gravity of it all never sank in until she noticed a change in me. At first, she assumed that because I went on dates, I would gradually accept her situation and be okay with it. But that all changed when my lover became a constant presence in my life. Apparently, I started to smile again for no reason, and my eyes would light up when I received a text message or when I cheerfully left the room to answer a call. She said she suddenly felt a pit in her stomach and started having mini panic attacks for no reason. She went to her friends for advice again, but they said it was a normal reaction for me to have during the open marriage. However, when the same divorced friend who suggested this in the first place said, "It looks like his lover makes him happy," it was when the reality of it all finally dawned on her. The very real possibility that another woman, and not his wife, gave him joy almost made her pass out. She realized how ridiculous this all was and begged them to help her win me back. But they just told her, "If you can't deal with it, why did you open your marriage in the first place?" She knew then and there that these people were toxic and a threat to our marriage and the life we built. Hence, she's been on a mission to win me back by any means necessary. I, on the other hand, didn't share much, but I did let the counselor know about the situation on my side with my lover still in the picture. The counselor said no resolution could ever be reached with my lover still in the picture and suggested we book another appointment after tomorrow. The counselor did say it was unusual for someone to stay with their first this long and gave the impression that any storm can be weathered. I highly suspect she wants us to be one of her success stories. The second session and unsettling discoveries. Again, thank you all for your support. It's quite literally been an episode of Jerry Springer. I have since moved into an apartment owned by my brother for a ridiculously cheap price. He owns properties and would have let me stay for free, but I refused that. Here's a little of what I have uncovered about my wife's behaviors and some unsettling things about her manager. During our second counseling session, I asked some questions. Was she sure nothing physical happened before opening the marriage? She looked towards the ground and begged me not to make her say it. She said if she did, it would destroy us. But after some pushing, she shared that it wasn't physical. They touched themselves in front of each other. This douchebag convinced her that since it wasn't physical, sort of, it wasn't technically cheating, and they were simply enjoying each other's full beauty. I was absolutely floored by this. She started shaking and hyperventilating. Even snot began flowing from her nostrils as she cried and apologized to me. At this point, even the counselor was taken aback and looked in disbelief. My wife got on her knees and hugged my legs, saying how sorry she was. What really changed her view of him? She said that after she started pulling back from the group as a whole, his behavior towards her changed. Then, one evening as she was leaving a meeting, she passed his office and heard him speaking about her to another male colleague. He said he was surprised at how easy it was to get her, and how she is living proof that you can't trust the quiet ones. When the colleague asked if he actually fancied her, his response was that she was a pleasant distraction, and that he had absolutely no intention of breaking up with his fiancée. He even added that this was simply to get it out of his system, because the only woman who has ever understood him was his fiancée, and he didn't want to break up with her. He also mentioned how he felt bad for me, but said, "You snooze, you lose." Upon realizing that she was nothing more than a piece of meat to this man, and that she betrayed me for a cheap thrill, she became suicidal in that moment. She said she left her workplace and vomited in the parking lot. She also added that her first thoughts were, "What have I done?" And my name, "Please forgive me. I'm so sorry." Did she ever stop loving me? I asked her if she loved him and when she stopped loving me. She looked me dead in the eye through tears and said she never stopped loving me, which honestly makes it worse. She said he was just something different. She thought it was love, but now realizes how foolish that was. She squeezed my arm with surprising strength and said she knows she messed up, but she misses us and the connection we had before all this. She even suggested we move away and start fresh, just the two of us, as it was meant to be. I then told her it wouldn't be fair to my lover and that I needed time away from her to process all of this. It was like she had a meltdown at those words. She started sobbing harder and saying incoherent things. She held on to me as if I was going to disappear and took some time for both me and the counselor to calm her down. The counselor managed to convince her that maybe time apart could help us heal. My wife got a video call from her laptop. It was one of her former friends in tears. It turns out that after my wife resigned, this friend and the manager began a fling of their own. Apparently, she had a pregnancy scare, which caused him to basically turn into Dr. Jekyll. To make matters worse, she had a boyfriend whom she apparently could see a future with. The only reason why she even had a fling was because she was curious about the experience. Funny how that seems to be a trend. Her boyfriend found out because he discovered an email between the two discussing the potential pregnancy, but the manager basically accused her of baby trapping him. Of course, he left her, and the reason why she made contact is because she was under the impression that my wife managed to save our marriage and was desperately seeking advice. I just turned and left and have been staying in the apartment ever since, uncovering the truth and moving forward. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who took the time to reach out and share either helpful advice, your own similar life stories, or just offered an ear for me to rant. It truly means a lot. The former friend who had the pregnancy scare was indeed pregnant, but the stress of losing her boyfriend and being humiliated by the affair caused her to lose the baby. She basically turned ballistic, going full scorched earth on the manager. She exposed him to all upper management and his fiancée. I happened to find his fiancée on Facebook. I was curious, and this woman is basically the poster child of a pretty small-town girl. Based on her profile, she's a special needs teacher who's a homebody and very family-oriented. My very first thought was, what the hell is he doing messing around with other women when he's got her at home? Honestly, why men like him end up with women like her is one of the greatest mysteries of life. The former friend actually got in contact with me. She wanted my side of the story because she was collecting evidence against him, but she wanted to do it in person. She already had her COVID test, and so did I. And I agreed. From the moment I saw her face, I knew she was broken. The dark circles under her eyes and her red-colored irises clearly showed she didn't get any sleep and was haunted by her own thoughts. She thanked me for agreeing to meet her and immediately apologized for her role in my wife's adventure. It turns out she and my wife spoke again, and that's when she learned I had moved out. She didn't shift blame and wanted to take responsibility, hence why she wanted to meet in person. I thanked her for her efforts, but asked her why she would go this far. She said losing both a child and the love of her life changed who she was at the core. She said she can hardly look in the mirror without feeling disgust, and she can hardly sleep because all she sees is her ex's face the day he found out. This woman clearly hated herself, and this meeting might have been a form of punishment for her. She tells me that since fraternizing among coworkers is a breach of conduct, and more so because he was in a position of influence, he will most likely be fired and possibly blacklisted from that field as a whole. But the same might be true for her as well, and she has accepted it. She left after getting my side of the story and apologized again. I needed to get a few things from the old place, so I picked a time when I thought my wife wasn't home. Unfortunately, she was there, but what surprised me was that she had most of our wedding photos out on the coffee table as well as others, and she was staring at them. When she noticed me, I could see she was crying. She tried to hug me, but I gently pushed her aside. She tried to offer me lunch, but I told her I wasn't hungry and that I wouldn't be long, just needed a few things. Before I could proceed, she said she had something to show me. She pulled out her phone and showed me a message she had received 2 days ago from her former manager who berated her. It was from a new number since she had blocked his old one. Apparently, my wife helped her former friend expose him to all relevant parties, and he was fuming. She said she got the idea from Chump Lady and Marriage Builders. She thought that by exposing the secret, she was removing its power as well as giving us a fighting chance. I told her I was glad that she had the courage to do that, but it doesn't change anything between us. I also informed her that I would be stopping marriage counseling and would do individual counseling instead. This made her sob softly, and she said she understood. I know I am supposed to feel either elation over the actions taken or rage because it took this long, but I feel numb towards her. This isn't normal, hence why I want to address it in individual counseling and not marriage counseling. I have also seen a divorce lawyer at my brother's recommendation just to be safe. As of now, I am not really willing to fight for this marriage, and it seems my wife consents it. Before I left, she tried to initiate intimacy, but when I refused, she yelled and asked, "What does my lover do for me that she can't? What does she, lover, give me that she, wife, can't?" In a voice so loud I am sure the neighbors heard it, she said that whatever it was I wanted, she, wife, would do it. I shook my head and told her if she still couldn't tell after all that's happened, then it's clear where our marriage is headed, and I left. This is where I am at least for now. Embracing self-respect and moving forward. As I sit in my new apartment, the reality of my decision sinks in. My wife's desperate attempts to mend our broken relationship, her emotional breakdowns, and her relentless pursuit to win me back have left me emotionally drained. Despite her promises to spend the rest of her life making it up to me, I find myself unable to trust her fully again. The bond we once shared feels irreparably damaged, and I realize that continuing in this marriage would only lead to more pain and confusion. My relationship with my lover remains a source of strength and confidence. She makes me feel like a man, capable, valued, and understood. Her unwavering support during this tumultuous time has been invaluable, but it also complicates my feelings. I've come to understand that while our marriage had its beautiful moments, the foundation has been cracked beyond repair. Going forward, I'm committed to focusing on my personal healing and growth. Individual counseling has provided me with the tools to navigate my emotions and rebuild my sense of self-worth. The decision to leave my wife was not easy, but it was necessary for my own well-being. I acknowledge that sometimes, despite our best efforts, relationships reach a point where parting ways is the healthiest choice for both parties involved. In the end, I don't regret my decision to prioritize my happiness and mental health. It's a step towards a future where I can find peace and fulfillment, free from the chaos and mistrust that once defined my marriage. As I continue to heal and move forward, I remain hopeful that I will find the love and stability I deserve.